impressive. I'm kind of interested in certain like topics, usually like something around like justice, social justice, or something that I follow on another level. And I was listening to someone, a German, like a prominent person, famous person, political activist or whatever. And she was in a podcast talking about what she sees like the social injustices in Germany. And usually I find her like positions quite good, and seeing the things cognitively correct. But then when I listened to her, I felt like the attitude, that was the energy that was coming out of that, and was so about this target group that she is talking about, that she feels like advocating for or something. That felt I was getting nauseous from that attitude.
That's like interesting. Yet she was advocating for them.
Yeah, she was advocating for them on a cognitive level, but that felt so that was such a like a poison that I didn't want to think about it, but it was so obvious, like this. I felt so sick.
Wow.
Like when
That's interesting.
Because I can somehow feel for them. I was in that position like for years, and so I can.
In her position, or the people she was advocating?
That, like this special kind of people, this group of people in Germany who have like this, are in this kind of situation, and I felt like so. Like some level of disrespect, like so like such a kind of patronizing, not from the words, but from the
from here, not here.
From here, like this, there's such a like such a disconnect in a way, and that felt like energetically, it felt kind of poisonous. Even I got
so did you do anything with that to explore it?
Well, it was still an hour to the session, so I kind of lay down and relaxed a bit, and don't feel that anymore. But still, it was so obvious, that it came from that, like this tone, like this.
So that's interesting. So effectively, she's speaking to advocate for, group of people which you could have been, or you previously have been a part of. So she's speaking from a supposedly compassionate, representative view, but without the energy of compassion.
Yeah, it wasn't compassion. It felt like like taking energy away from that group, disempowering.
That's interesting. No, that's really interesting, because I was looking at that kind of thing, in our dynamic, in our situation, and so let's say, I was, Khaled's in hospital, and we were short of funds again, and he's, moved out of his room into a storage room, basically, because we haven't got the money, and in the hospital to eke out our money, to go. And he sent me a message this morning, and it broke my heart, and because he was feeling so bad to be a load on me, and so I had to turn to somebody to ask for help, because I couldn't have him prior to his heart operation being in such terrible state with blood pressure, headache. So anyway, thank God we got the flow, we got the funds that we needed for it. But the thing about, is what I was looking at, because I've been looking at this movement of compassion. There's the feeling for somebody, and going through your feelings, so you're just love in front of that person, and the desire to alleviate their suffering. But there's also something to avoid them having to even feel the pain that they could feel by helping them. So, for instance, like in his situation, his dignity is very precious. And so in the helping, would make him feel worse if the care to the dignity was not respected, for instance. And so there's like another level of awareness, like what you're talking about there, is that she was lacking, is how to be solving the problem with the sensitivity of the sensibilities of the people that she's trying to represent. So it's
yeah, with having being respectful at the same time, and not on some level making them actually weaker.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because it's like, and then if anyone is made to feel like that, then it just shows the another level. You can look at it in either side of the interaction. You could say, okay, so that person has to heal their dignity issues or whatever, or the person speaking or acting needs to grow more compassion. Is both is valuable.
Yeah, I think that is actually the core of compassion, is like how to help people in a way that they can accept the help.
So they can accept the help. Yeah, so they can accept the help without feeling pain of being in a position to receive the help. So it's actually having the respect and having the care, the complete respect, and it's like not looking down on an aspect. It's like holding all aspects equal and valuable, and respecting that how they got to that position is the real reason. And if we knew it, we wouldn't have anything other than pure compassion and love anyway. So that's in similar dynamic to what is going on here. I'm like trying to care about the dignity of this man in my husband in such a in a storage room. So it's a staff room, but they're not very staff rooms in the hospital are very, very basic, and no windows or anything. They're very small. So he'd moved into that, and I wanted to try to solve that, and we needed extra medicines. Just like to go, if I went out to wider help, anybody can help, is bringing public attention on his very humble, delicate, very sensitive situation, and his sensitivity about that, wherever he's at, whether he should heal it, whether he should grow out of it, whether he should open up and accept help, that's another thing. That's one thing that can happen. But the other thing is to care about where he's at and respect that and respond to that in a sensitive way, to be able to help to solve the problem with that respect and sensitivity. So that's really a similar thing, and that's like another level of compassion. It's like the capacity to have that awareness. So you have to have the love to have that vision and to feel and to know and to see that, to be able to handle it and respond to it. So it's another level. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like actually it's like a thing that to learn that is is like to learn that like that um, like being able to give something to someone, that is a gift, and that the other person also feels that is a gift.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like that they're by receiving are giving something.
Yeah.
And that they can also feel that, you know, like so that they can accept it.
Yeah.
On the other hand.
And if they feel bad, then there barriers to accepting it there, so they don't actually receive energetically then, or can't receive. Feel bad about receiving.
And like there's a way how that can work, but then there's also many ways how that can go awfully wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
and
when
you can get poisoned by others helping you or something.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So that is a level of compassion, a quality of compassion to do in that level. And then there's another level. I think I don't know if it's the same or it's I think just an extension of that is, maybe it's just the same really, but with a broader remit, is then the anticipation of the need and the suffering, the anticipation before it happens, and to solve it so it doesn't even have to happen. And that is like, I was thinking about that, is altruism. What's that? Altruism is like it's doing the good for people that they don't even have to know the bad. And like we in the UK, we have National Health Service. That's a very kind of a topical thing at the moment politically. Brexit, because there are all trade deals with Trump and the USA and privatization of the NHS. Everybody's like adamant that it's not going to happen, but it's slipping down that road. And so I'm an example of, this is what the future is if you don't have your National Health Service, paying for your health and the misery and everything. And so that institution with the socially funded healthcare. So when you are in need, you don't have to deal with the finances or how much money you've got or your ability to pay for it. You should get the same healthcare. That is like an institution arising from altruistic compassion. It's this anticipation,
this
misery that would happen if how can we avoid all of that misery? What good can we put into place so people never have to suffer that? That's like beautiful, actually.
Yeah, that's like if you have the service or a level or an institution like that, that's basically there to kind of do away or get rid of all these kind of which are actually all power levels of like domination and who is top and who is the bottom, and how you can be powerful in a weak position, and and like the dynamics that everybody has to basically have with you to get what you need without losing your dignity and all these personal skills that you have to have when you don't have that kind of institutional level or something. Like then it's so much about losing your dignity and how you can accept help or not. And it's even in on some basic level, it was always like when Europeans came to Africa, like there's the basic default help system was whoever helped someone in a precarious position became responsible for them. Like if they help someone in a in a life-threatening position, then they became responsible, like they were their father now or their boss.
Is that a cultural thing in Africa? Is that a cultural thing? I didn't know that.
Not only in Africa, that's kind of like a hunter-gatherer level normality or
primitive
something.
kind of principle at work. Yeah.
If it's not like exchange of help in your clan or in your family or something, but it's like a person you don't know, then like that makes a relationship.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Give them life or something, and then they owe you something, or
well, actually, that's another interesting thing, isn't it? Because then in order to give without the person feeling obligated to you, like we have received, some help in our situation with healthcare. The costs have been very high this time. No way I could deal with it at all myself. And so, my first response is like, well, I keep wanting to thank the source. How can I say thanks enough for this? How can I say thanks? And the source is saying, I don't want you to keep thanking me because you put a burden on me. Like, I keep thanking you. It's like something, actually is given. Finished, don't mention it again. Just receive, do it, and it's finished. That's to set the person free who's received. So then that's a free gift then, without a burden of obligation, which is then more like an investment or a loan, energetically. So that's interesting as well. But then maybe the human versus the divine version is more like what you said then, but yeah, that's interesting as well. So, and again, so this is a development of ourselves to have the ability to have the love that we can give for whatever, solving the problem in front of us. And that's it. And have the blessing of bringing light to that place and have the person be helped. And that's enough, like in return, somehow. What does that
mean? It's like without burdening anyone, no? Like being able to help without burdening them. By being
the one being helped. Yeah. It's like, that's actually, that's what loans are. Because obviously I know all about loans and debts as well, along this pathway. As, where I've borrowed in the past, particularly if I borrow from friends, it is initial help, but it comes with the burden that it's got to go back. And while you're in a struggle, like survival situation, that burden of repayment is really heavy. And so, they have this as this expression of neither a lender or borrower be. And you think, well, what's the wisdom in that? It's actually about not lending and borrowing, but give what you can and let it, so there's no obligation, so it's free. Then it's a free gift. And then if somebody's situation is better, they can pay it forward or pay it back as they want, but without a kind of obligation. So like loans on someone who's in a suffering situation is a help, but comes with a burden. So that's interesting, isn't it? That's where that wisdom of that expression, neither a lender or borrower be, it comes from that.
Yeah, that's the whole balance, or this whole system behind it, no? Like there's like the energy system behind it. Like when it's clear that you like giving it out of joy and not out of like somehow to like it's without strings attached, or without out of self-fullness.
Yeah.
Then rather than selflessness.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that's an interesting principle as well. So to cultivate or to understand, actually, like if I'm the one helping anyone, my personal values and operation, I don't, it's given. I don't expect it back. I don't want it back. I do not need it to have it back. It's given. And and when sometimes people said, "Okay, lend me something," I've lent it, but then if they've struggled, like I thought, they're not going to be able to pay me back, I just write it off, rather than hold them to their debt. So, because in the situation of needing a loan, you're in a difficult energy, aren't you? So all you're getting is the solution to that energy, and then you have to find it again, spare surplus energy later to be able to kind of return it. So, but I haven't, but still on the other hand, there's an interesting dynamic while we're on this subject, because I have accumulated a lot of debt myself over the health story. And on the one hand, you can look at it as debt, but on the other hand, you can look at it as help. Like it's always, you think of it's help, but it's a debt. But actually, it was a help. And if it's transformed into really deep gratitude, the energy of the help not only solves the situation, but could generate the energy from which to reciprocate the balance. I had a sense of that years ago when I looked at my mountain of debts at one point with emo, and I kind of just started to tune in and start to take it in and feel it and emo the energy of the debt. And even I got a part way through it, and my heart power was like a solar power. I thought, wow, this is gratitude. This is love, power, that this debt, once I realized of it as help that had actually been taken in, received, it really powered me up, which would be a generative, creative kind of energy then, to be able to, be more generate more. So that was kind of interesting as well. And I've yet to kind of follow that up with the rest of the debts. So
yeah, I think that to me that reminds me of this whole time when I learned this the nonviolent communication, and that was the topic many times. What the conditions are so that you can actually receive help. And how you do that in a system where there's no hierarchy anywhere, so no law or something like that, but you're just you need something, and how do you get that need fulfilled without getting another need then compromised, or how do you do you go on in a jungle situation where there's all getting along with all kinds of people so that your needs really get fulfilled, and you can fulfill other people's needs, and there's this kind of balance, it's kind of without someone being higher up or
in equal society,
in a way that works. In a way that it works, that you give from a place of fullness, and and the other and you give in a way that the other person can receive it, no?
Yeah.
So that this condition is fulfilled, and and yeah, like that was all what this was all about, you know? Like that was, I had some, and I remember like strange situations, like when I was like there was a summer training that I was participating in, and I wanted to go there, but I didn't have the money. Like I had only the money for one day, and there was a whole week. And so at the end of the day, I told this group that was there on this meadow, sitting there, I told them, that was a nice day, but sorry, I can't go on. I have to go back home. I don't have the money for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
I told them that, and then they wanted me to stay, no? Since I was already part of the group.
It. So the money came to let you be able to stay.
Yeah, and that worked out after like some negotiation and also a bit of anger and stuff. Like it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's interesting as well. And that's a bit like not just the crowdfunding, but you know, like people saying, you know, I want to go on a trip across America, but I haven't got the money. Will you sponsor me? And I'll send you postcards along the way, or I'll send you a video. Or, you know, like there's a kind of something, a little trade-off, some nice thing to sponsor somebody on their project. You know, so that makes the flow, happen. Yeah. Like they wanted you to stay. They wanted you to stay. So their benefit was you got to stay, and they had the pleasure of having you there.
And there's also like some kind of positioning that has to take place so that they actually have fun giving you this 5 or 10 euros or whatever that was, you know? But that positioning has to take place so that it becomes like
a high energy thing.
The pathway opens so that it can flow.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's like Bob Geldof and Food Aid, isn't it? You know, Feed the World song and the big concert they did with Queen and everybody, you know, in London for like they generated all that money for Ethiopia and everything years ago, like a major event. They got everybody in a happy thing and then said, look, here's the problem. Give us your money. So that's what fundraising is doing, isn't it? It's like opening the channels, raising the energy, do something nice so people feel good, and then they feel they can, you know, share from that place towards whatever problem. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah, but it's like quite different from feeling morally obligated or any kind of stuff like that. You know? It has to come from like if it works well, it has to come from a free perspective, not from kind of like like I would like from energy's perspective, I would say it has to be above zero. You know, like it cannot come from like this.
Yeah.
Like
and where
tribal stuff.
Go on, sorry.
Below zero is all this tribal stuff of obligation and loyalty and all these kind of low energy state.
On the giver, you mean, or on the receiver? On the giver, they need to be higher.
No, both. You know, like. You want it to happen on a free level, you know?
Yeah. So, and here we come back to compassion, because if the problem level is a low level, then you have to have a higher level to be able to give from. So the compassion to solve the low level problem is a higher level of energy that it can still be free, the given.
Yeah, it's like another thing, for example, with my training participant, like Karen Böhmer, like she wanted to do the next trainings. No, we had like, but she said like she had to wait for money, like some money coming in onto her account. But now it's like 3 weeks, you know. And I thought, oh, I'm missing that energy. You know?
Yeah.
Like kind of having this training with her. And I thought at some point my energy was getting really low. And then because I had like gotten used to this. You know?
Yeah.
Having this like
it's a part of your spiritual
balance,
nourishment. Yeah.
In my energy balance, that was like a kind of fixed position, or gotten a fixed position already. And now it's like lacking something.
Yeah.
Kind of,
yeah. That's like
very nice.
As a trainer between courses, that's how I've been for a long time, you know, really high and happy kind of glory moments of training, and then dropping into this slump in between, which is why I've set up these classes for myself, really, to, you know, explore things on a regular basis, because that helps my energy a lot as well. I really enjoy it. And so yeah, I know that feeling.
But now, like what I've learned, like these last days, when I had also like some kind of really low days, but then got my energy filled up from inside again, then that kind of made me independent again. So that I appreciate, you know, that maybe there's like an element also she wants to wait, and like that has been like an ongoing thing, you know, and like that you could get kind of addicted to or something. She like tries out how it is like to be without it, you know? Like not to not getting too kind of bondage by it, or something like that. You know? So I can appreciate that. No, like it's in a way a cool thing. Like maybe if she comes back and we do this other thing, there's another level of appreciation or something, and also of consciousness of this. You know, like if you get used to it, man, like, you kind of have like doing the next thing like from a level of loyalty, or like kind of because not daring to be free of it, and maybe take another direction or something. You know? That's also this kind of
so having that space lets that freedom to kind of choose afresh.
And so I appreciate that. It has also got to do with this, you know, like I like to give and to but also to be aware of that, like there's a power aspect to this, you know? So and it's good to be like also standing on my own feet, you know, like emotionally, energetically.
That's right. There's always this balance between the self-sustaining the relationship with yourself and the relationship with others, and how much you sustain yourself, and how much others are sustaining you, and how much you sustaining others. So and there's a question: is one more important than the other, or are they equal? That's another question.
It's good to sustain a relationship on a high level, and not like to act to be bondaged from this kind of loyalty and tribal, like low energy levels.
But is it the question I'm asking is, if we have our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with others. So our relationship with others feeds and sustains us, and our relationship with ourselves feeds and sustains us. So are they equal, or is one more valuable than the others, or is there a hierarchy? Is there?
Yes, I think
in
that
society gives a hierarchy to it. Society gives a hierarchy to it. But so, what's your thoughts about that?
I think like this relationship with myself is my first love. Like it's kind of the ultimate intimacy that we don't know, that and that we also give away, like it has to do with authenticity and what we really want and who we are when we are alone, like the things like it has to do with freedom also, and also it is the light, it is our life, that we are, and the social thing, like there's a tendency, at least with the social connection, that there's compromise. Like it's kind of partial. It's good if it's not. And it's if there's a freedom in, like, because this relationship with the self can bring freedom to this other relationship.
Well, the relationship with yourself, to the degree that it's all loving, can bring freedom, but the relationship with others, to the degree that the relationship is all loving, can bring freedom. So both.
Yeah, but to me, in the degree that this relationship with the self, in the sense that meaning like that I feel like there's really a relationship and there's a source in me that can make me free, and not like feel me I'm encaged within myself, meaning with my thoughts, but there's that I can feel and touch this level that kind of what is that? Frees me, that can free me, that that gives me life, that gives me life that is divine.
Yes.
And when I can touch that, that is kind of the freedom that is in me, and it is not like a kind of a limitation, but it's freeing. It's really like that's really something that makes the social thing also free. Like it's because it's not.
So by freeing yourself in your relationship with yourself, you have freer relationships with others. What I'm saying is, can you do it the other way around first? So in other words, by being in a really loving, if you are blessed enough to be in a really loving relationship, or there's love and compassion that you're the receiver of, that sets you free, then you're set free to be good in your relationships as well. Because it's like sets you free and brings you back into your alignment with yourself. I'm kind of putting it out there to look at.
It's a good question. I have like had both in conflict, both ways, but I would like to have them like find out how it how it works in harmony or in alignment.
Yeah, it's like what I see in our personal development kind of culture is the big finger pointing or saying take responsibility, get your relationship with yourself right, own your emotions, sort yourself out, get your own power, get yourself up there, yourself to your +10 self. Okay, fine, good, valuable, important, awesome. However, by design of being social creatures, when you're not at your +10, there is another option. You can have energy from the outside to bring your energy up. We're designed that way. And so through relationship, energy flows and can bring about the same result. For example, I mean, and look at the Christian model with Jesus. Jesus sets me free to be who I am. Hallelujah, I'm free, for instance. But that's a relationship from the outside, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's also another thing, is that even the relationship with the self or with the divine self, it's not a machine. Like it's like a nightingale that doesn't obey your command in a way, but it's like it's not a slot machine.
Yeah. And the other thing is, though, you know, because coming back to compassion and relationships, is that if we valued self-responsibility and self-empowerment as the sole goal that everybody's aspiring to, then we'd all be islands. And compassion, I wouldn't actually want to live in that society.
Yeah, and it's also a boring place, the self thing, if I'm not doing anything on the outside. It's only really good to come home when you have something going on the outside. Well, then it's kind of, you're learning something, you're developing something, and then to come out of that and bring the whole harvest home, then this coming home thing is a good thing. But when you're kind of closed in there, and that's like you have nowhere to go on the outside, then it doesn't work. It only works somehow in if it's like going out and coming back home. But if you don't get out, then you kind of in a jail. It doesn't work.
Because this whole Buddhist principle, which I can start to see, you know, the movement towards when looking at compassion, because compassion is about the other, you know, well, it could be the other being in the aspect, but it's about alleviating the suffering of the other to bring them back into their alignment, to their happiness and freedom. And so that's the glue in relationships. That's, you know, if we don't have that, which, you know, let's say look at a family. If one member of the family is down, you know, nobody else can be completely happy. You know, you've got to you care enough to want to solve that problem. Or, you know, one member of the community is hungry. How can everybody else eat happily whilst the other member of the community is hungry, for instance? So there's like, everybody's got to be good kind of principle. So that's a co-joint.
Especially with energy aware and like feel something happening with other people, and it's kind of, you feel the bubble really going down immediately, like, and you start feeling all these movements in a much bigger way than before, like with the energy awareness, and then that's like a big deal, you know? Like yeah, that's true. No, this thing is there.
So there's a kind of, so, you know, here's then our limits of compassion are the family, you know, our loved ones, our friends, you know, our close relationships. The bubble is our limit of compassion. If it's outside the bubble, we don't care. You know, we don't say, oh, somebody can be suffering, and we don't respond. So it's actually, we unless it's like kind of close to home, so it's like on the next bubble at level out, you know, so it's actually how much connection we have lets us have a wider net of compassion.
Yeah, that's maybe that's also why I'm kind of still connected to these people who were in this condition, and it's like I can see, kind of feel what they feel because I was in that situation.
Yeah.
And I can see how that is influencing society as a whole.
Yeah.
And how that is part of the whole of society, like how the society tries to like splits itself or kind of is damaged by these kind of things, like, and that was this interview, and I was like kind of shocked, by this split attitude, like the energy level is so different from what the person is telling intellectually. And like they're seeing these other people who are in this condition, this weak condition, actually like they are kind of
some inferior kind of things. Yeah.
Like they're kind of lesser than human.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Which is to not give respect to the story. That how a person came. It's like what we look at refugees and the prejudice or whatever, the judgment of refugees. Refugees have had their cities bombed. They've had to escape with their families or whatever from that and make a journey and leave everything, their belongings behind, and try to find some place where they can settle, be accepted, to then get prejudice and judgment on them. It's like even worse, so it's like, no, they're lesser because they're refugees. They're doctors and engineers and, teachers, and they're regular people that just got their house bombed and their city bombed and they don't have anything left, and they tried to come to find something better.
Yeah, and they're just like transitorily in this situation, but actually when they kind of get roots, all of a sudden you see them like, oh, these are young, educated people, and they are actually all of a sudden they are competition to a whole group of other people in the society and are super qualified, and they have this kind of weak, kind of wimpy kind of thing to them anymore, but they have like mastered like a super
they've got some strength as well as their skills, because they've had to kind of survive their way and set up again in difficult circumstances. They're very hardy.
It's like so much people get identified with the clothes they have in this condition.
Yeah.
Like that is so complex.
Yeah.
But then I would like to reactivate. I at some point I knew like these attitudes that are necessary to do this right. Like so you can give and also receive without all these atavistic old kind of indebted feelings and all of that.
Yeah. Like I've had some, a couple of times over the years, where somebody gave us something where we had a, medical bill, I didn't have the ability to pay, and somebody gave me the money. They just said, I'm giving you on this, on the condition that is never mentioned again, and it's forgotten. Like they just set me free of any obligation. That's kind of, it's given, it's done, it's finished, problem solved. I'm happy for it. You're happy for it. That's it. It's finished. Don't mention it again.
Yeah, like it's and that like for me, like this whole thing with the Sue scale and the energy is something which makes it easy. Like I'm thinking of like what other people owe me when I'm kind of in debt myself, and I try to kind of have like ways of how I can can force energy towards me or something like that. No, but when I keep myself up, then I'm out of that zone in some way.
Yeah.
No, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm.
Yeah, that's like I would like to. I hope that I can learn more about this.
I think once we start looking at our own personal situations and going into the energy movements and getting some soften and flow and learning, and then we can kind of grow a bit as well about that. So I think there's really good. I'm so glad I recorded this actually, because the others will probably be happy to sit and watch it at some point. Get some just come.
Yeah, that was like a little brainstorm.
Yeah.
But maybe we can find like some kind of constructive ways of how to harvest something from it.
Well, I think it'd be, so there's we touched on a few things here. So but on the compassion themes, we could, pick them out. What I was planning for tonight was to look at our aspects and, first our own aspects. And so maybe we'll do that tomorrow and look at our compassion for our aspects, sort of how deep can we go? We'll do the energy exercise. What's the aspect feeling? Where do you feel that in the body? Soften and flow. What else have you feeling? Where do you feel it in the body? Soften and flow. What happened to them that let them feel like that? Ooh, what are they feeling about that? Where do you feel that in your body? Soften and flow. And kind of like just clean everything, inside you that blocks the love to the aspect, and then see what happens to the aspect, how that changes the aspect when you evolve your relationship with them. So we've had in the emo course and the EFT course about you can have a healing event by bringing the aspect +10 or bringing yourself into a relationship of love and forgiveness and compassion of the aspect. But the question is, how far does compassion go? Is it just the feeling of compassion, or can we scrutinize it more to bring the aspect, set the aspect completely free? There's a kind of a compassion scale as well, I think. It's like I was doing a session with somebody yesterday, and actually to heal the trauma, we're almost completely, but the level, there were so many little tiny specks of things left, which could have been just left. It's like, no, every speck needs the same light to shine on it equally. It's deserving of the same light and love as everything else. And it's saying, what about me, just by showing up as a little speck? So, and so, we had quite a long session, about an hour and a half, really just bringing love and compassion to every single aspect, moment of the story, and to set the aspect free. So, so that, I think to have, learn something when we do it through our own energy movements. So, last time, actually, I was just doing compassion for myself now, and the others in the group was doing compassion for the aspect. But I think we can go deeper into the aspect. We can go to what's the aspect feeling, and the energy movement is, so where do I feel the aspects in my body? So kind of we're kind of cleaning the way for that to release through us. And how deep can you go, and what happens to the aspect? How deep do we have to go that the aspect gets to a +10, you know, to set them free. How much opening in ourselves. And it brings me to the, you know, one of the things I found interesting when I was exploring around my book 10 years ago, Dr. Hugh Len, that famous healer, doing Ho'oponopono, clearing out, healing the hospital for the criminally insane. And he just did his own healing in the back room, looking at their files. Didn't do it with them. He just himself and set them free. And so that's like another level. Welcome, Margarita. Another level of, you know, greater compassion. You know, so that's something that I think it would be good for us to visit in our course.
So, like Dr. Hugh Len, this Ho'oponopono, you would see that as like an extension of compassion.
What he did, yeah, because what he was doing, the Ho'oponopono words, excuse me, Margarita, don't want to, you know.
No, carry on talking. I apologize.
No, it's okay. So, you know, the words and the movements of like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. They're a simplified version of saying, I witness your experience. I'm so sorry, I feel for your experience. Not just I feel the pain, but I clean that in me. So I feel love and compassion in front of your pain. And please forgive me that, I don't know what that could be, like that we didn't do this before, you know, that you've had to suffer even till now. Please forgive me that we let you suffer. As recognizing that, oh, nobody did anything for me, you know. Please forgive me that pain. Where do I feel that soften flow? And then laughter and thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for doing this, and I love you back. So it's actually very deep cleaning going on, not just those words, which are quite simple, but that level of witness. So Dr. Len, what he did in his office, he took these people who were in the hospital, criminally insane hospital, who'd had a terrible upbringing, then started to be perpetrators, from being victims to being perpetrators, and then went, you know, got so stressed they got crazy and did crimes and they got locked up. Okay, so he went patiently, went through their life history and cleaned himself.
Cleaned himself, like
cleaned
himself. The
The
level that he was contributing to this, as he could witness that.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's actually saying that by our blockage as a member of society, we perpetuate that.
Yeah, like we contribute to it.
By our like not having healed ourselves, we perpetuate somebody else's suffering.
Yeah, like, and we are connected because like we have information in us that contributes to that, and when we heal that in us, then they also get healed.
That's right. So it's opened the channel to flow. So this is showing.
We're just cleaning up our own act, and that's everything that we do.
Yeah, cleaning ourselves, but then it cleans the other. It sets them free.
If I may say here, Sandra, he also says that once he has seen what has happened, he is responsible then for that, as you know, the moment he sees it.
Yeah. So this is, I just absolutely, Margarita. So what this is saying is, we are co-jointly responsible for each other. If you become the observer or the witness to the suffering, now you're part of it. So it's now, who am I in front of that? Am I the one, oh, nothing, walk away? Okay, or have I got the capacity to help to alleviate that suffering. And that's then the compassion. So that's interesting. And then, so by that principle that you're saying is, we are all responsible for each other collectively. However, we don't have the compassion yet to enact that co-joint responsibility for each other.
Yeah. Like so, that's the other person, or the 7 billion in me that I need the compassion for.
Yeah. And that, so therefore, coming back to the previous question is, which is the higher value, or are they just both equal? You know, when somebody's suffering and we look at them and say, oh, you get your shit together, you know, you need to do your, you know, tapping yourself, and it's up to you, own your emotions, do your self-development. While you're saying that, you're showing your own journey of compassion as yet not begun.
Yeah, that shit that I can see in the other is actually my shit.
Yeah, that you see somebody at -7 as being less than actually totally lovable and deserving and perfect, or, you know, because of their journey, that you see them in anything other than love and compassion, is your shows your own where you are. And when you see them with complete love and compassion, you set them free. You enlighten them. So that's the interesting dilemma that I've, you know, observed in personal development, which is about self-responsibility, and hardly ever mentioned about co-joint responsibility, because it's too high value to be the responsible as the witness, equally responsible as the witness to the suffering, as the one in the suffering is responsible for their own. And that's, if that to be true, we need to be as one. Which is, we need to grow our compassion. Thank you, Margarita. Total gem to put in there on us there, to drop in. We came at the right moment.
Oh, I'm not compassionate for myself, because I had the computer on all day saying that I got 2 phone calls and I got distracted, like I am nowadays, totally distracted. Anyway, sorry. I suppose I could say, I'm sorry, please forgive me.
So anyway, we
and I love you. But I mean it though too, because I really am, you know, I really mean it, because I know that like when the one of us is missing, like